I am notorious for writing and editing myself at the same time. And
Yeah, that'll
so,
kill you.
okay, I
Yeah,
can get over
writing
this. I
and
can get over
editing at the
this.
same time will kill your momentum.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
just write and you don't critique. You always write a book to one person.
Great.
So what that means is you figure out if you had 5, 8, 10 hours to sit across a cafe table from somebody that you know, an actual face and a name, who would that person be? And you
Mhm.
begin to identify the needs of that person and how the testimony of what God has done in your life, how your survival story is
Yeah.
going to become their survival manual. Hey, friends, welcome back to the show where we help people conquer their mountains. This week, I got to talk to Melanie. She has an amazing story of God's work in her life, overcoming some mental health issues and some challenges she had with the church. And she has a dream, a desire to write a book about the experience. And I've got a feeling you're going to really enjoy this episode. One of the most common questions I get from people is that, how do I write a book? So we get into the nitty-gritty, some really practical tips about how to write a book, and I think it's going to be a huge encouragement for you. If you've got your own thing you're working through, some challenges, some ideas, maybe you don't know where to start on something you feel God's called you to do, I would love to talk to you. That's what this show is all about. You can contact me and sign up for coaching. Go to joelmalm.com/coaching. I'd love to have you on the show, and we can work together to help you accomplish the dreams, the hopes, the plans that God has put in your heart to bring Him glory and to really bring a sense of fulfillment for you. I hope this episode is really helpful. I think you're going to enjoy it. I'd love to hear your feedback on it. You guys enjoy. Melanie, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing, Joelle?
Good. Now, are you in Alabama? Is that where
I
you're at?
am. Yeah. I'm in Elmore.
Awesome. Elmore. That's right. Elmore. That's right. I remember going to visit y'all's church that one time speaking out there, didn't I?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I met you when Robert Mullins was pastor here, and you did Connecting the Dots conference.
That's right. Yes.
Yes.
Connecting the Dots. My favorite book of mine that has sold the least copies.
Oh no, it's fantastic. I love that book.
So, hey, so what do you want to talk about today?
So actually, that's what I'm looking for advice on writing a book. I have had an idea, and the Lord has put it on my heart for a couple of years, and I've written sort of a first chapter, but I just kind of am at the point now where I'm staring at the blank page, and I don't know next steps to take, how to build a structure, what a writing process might look like. So I was going to come to you for some advice because I know you've written a number of books, and I love all of them. So I would love to get your advice.
Yeah, well, I've got my system. Everybody kind of figures out their system. I'll share my system and you figure out what works for you. What's the book about?
It's actually about my mental health journey.
Okay.
Yeah,
What
so
specifically?
I actually have bipolar, and so dealing with all kinds of trauma from, I was in an abusive marriage, and so just coming out of that and having to figure out, what was going on. I sought help a number of times before I was actually properly diagnosed, going on the roller coaster of trial and error with medications, with different therapists, finding my way back into the church because I stepped away from the church for a long time. Just was alone, and felt isolated. And
Mhm.
so the Lord has brought me back into a beautiful community. And so I'm just excited to share that with other people because I know a lot of people are dealing with it, and there's still a pretty big stigma around it in certain parts of the church.
Yeah. Okay, so what would be your ideal end game? You always start with the end in mind for this book. What would you like to see happen with this book?
So I'd like to use it as a platform for speaking. Um,
Okay.
I really feel like a book can go so far, but I feel like a face to face interaction with people is definitely the ideal when it comes to sharing this type of story that's very personal, because I feel like people need to see a face in front of them.
Yeah. What would be the optimal venue environment for that kind of meeting?
Um, I definitely feel a leaning towards women, and specifically women in the church.
Okay.
So any type of women's event, I think would be perfect for that.
Okay. So maybe your one of your key target audiences, you always have kind of your key target audience and your secondary audience would definitely be women in the church.
That's right.
Okay, cool. So Best piece of advice I ever got on writing a book was you always write a book to one person.
Great.
So what that means is you figure out if you had 5, 8, 10 hours to sit across a cafe table from somebody that you know, an actual face and a name, who would that person be? And you
Mhm.
begin to identify the needs of that person and how the testimony of what God has done in your life, how your survival story is
Yeah.
going to become their survival manual.
Okay.
So, one of the keys would be figuring out who that person is.
Okay.
In marketing, I think I call it the customer avatar. Like,
Hmm.
what is the person? What are they feeling? What are they needing? What are they thinking? What are they hoping? And so, you think you've kind of got that nailed down?
I think in general terms, but I could probably dive deeper into that. That's
Okay, yeah. Let's actually look at that. So,
okay.
what were some of the obstacles that you faced with mental health in the church? Is that, like, what were
Y-
some of the issues there?
Yeah, I think feeling that I didn't have anyone to turn to. For me, I was emotionally and mentally at such a place of devastation that I didn't trust anyone anymore. And so figuring out a way to find people who I could trust, that was a huge obstacle for me. In part of my story, I was actually betrayed by the leadership of my church. They stood by my ex husband, who was the abuser. And so I left the church feeling like I had no one to turn to. And, that would have been my source. I grew up in the church. And so I would have definitely looked to church leadership for help.
So in some ways, it kind of a betrayal or being let down by leadership.
Yeah,
The very
definitely.
people you would have hoped would protect you did not.
For sure.
Yeah, and they probably had Bible passages to back it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so there's some themes. So what you want to do is you imagine you're sitting across the table from this person. And the way I structure chapters is simply this. Uh, if I had to sit with if I got to sit with that person and share with them everything I've learned along this journey, what are the top 8, 9, 10, 12 things you would say, hey, here's some things you want to be ready for and some things you're going to face and how to face them.
Okay.
And each of those becomes a chapter heading.
Okay.
So you're probably going to feel isolated and alone. The way I structure them is I start with a personal story, which you've already got your personal story, so that's not
Yeah.
going to be hard. You don't have to come up with a story, you've got one.
Right.
And as something I love to say all the time, a person with experience is never at the mercy of a person with a theory.
That's right.
So you got the experience.
Yeah.
And then you would kind of broaden it out to who all this applies to, like how this applies to people's lives. So I think a lot of times what we do is we just jump into kind of spitting out the truth before setting in the table for people and saying, hey, here's some things that I want to talk about, and I'm going to bring out the answer in just a second. But just kind of reminding them of the struggles that they're facing or they're going to face in that way.
Okay.
And then the next step, once you've set the table and said, hey, here's my story, here's what I know is probably true in your life. If you're going through this mental health journey, you're probably thinking, I'm the only one that's ever dealt with something like this. You're not alone. You're not isolated, right? Or maybe you felt like the church has betrayed you and didn't come through for you. And you thought, the church is where I should find the safest place for my mental health issue, but it's not. And
Yeah.
so that's another chapter title. So you've got the right. So you got the title, you got the story is the first thing. Then you've got the reminding the person or sharing the person what's going on, and then you bring in the truth. And if it's a gospel-based book, you're going to bring the biblical
Hmm.
principle there. And then the next step after that would be the kind of application. It's very important to bring application to it. Our story has power in it, but the true power comes when we make it not about us, but about the reader.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So you're going to do that. I can already tell you're going to do
Yeah.
that. And then the final thing is give them a vision for
Mm-hmm.
what could change if we applied God's truth in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that for each of those 8, 10, 12 things. That's interestingly enough, that's how you'd prepare a talk as well.
Okay.
So when I go speak at places, sometimes they give me just carte blanche about what I want to talk about. And typically what I'll do is I'll take a chapter from my book and just make it into a message because that format works really well with the message. So in any given book, a 12 chapter book, you've got 12 unique messages in there.
Okay. That's great.
Um, Yeah, and then you can present that for when you go into the speaking world. You can say, "Hey, here's things I talk about, right? And the general
Mm,
themes, mental health, the struggles of," and so that's kind of how you structure it. Now, your writing routine, all that stuff, that's so different for everybody. My friend Mark Batterson is a brilliant, prolific writer,
mm,
amazing writer. He has his window where he only writes during football season. So
okay.
as soon as football season starts, he is every morning at his desk, probably knowing him, it's probably 5 a.m. And he just writes and writes and writes and writes. And he doesn't take meetings, he doesn't get disturbed that. I'm not that disciplined, man. I
Well,
just
that wouldn't fit with I have a lot of other responsibilities and people I help take care of and things like that. So that wouldn't,
yeah, and I mean
I don't have that luxury, but yeah,
he's
I
written
can see
that
that.
responsibility
Yeah.
into his job description, right? And in
Fantastic. I
some
love
ways we
that.
can do that, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, but you have to figure out what works for you. I am a spurt writer, and
Okay.
I'll wake up at 2 a.m. and have a very, very clear thought. And I've found that when, you know, I got to believe the Lord's the one inspiring that, that when
Yeah.
he pumps that into my head, I need to honor that and jump up, and I may write from 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. the next
Yeah.
day. So it comes out in spurts. Some people, it doesn't work that way. Some people are incredibly disciplined. They show up every day from 9 to noon. Gosh, I wish I was that disciplined. I try to be that disciplined, but life happens and I just can't.
Yeah.
Um, but you find your rhythm,
Okay.
and you'll find I have seasons where I'm like, I'm never going to write a book again. And then like 2 months later, I'm writing a book again. So I find when you have a calling to write,
Mm,
you really can't run from it. It's that verse, the gifts and the calling of God are with never revoked without
yeah.
repentance. It talks about in Romans. If you've got the curse or the calling, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it, you're gonna feel that. So yeah, so what are some of the struggles you've been facing in kind of getting it all out on paper? Is it logistical, or is it structural, or is it just like,
I think
what
it's
is it?
both. I think some of it is just staring at that blank page. There's a little bit of overcoming. I do tend to write in spurts, so I think that
Yeah,
would probably be. I tend to will get an idea and then just kind of dive in and go for it. The structural idea of scheduling out time and to write. While I think it's helpful, I'm a creative. That's what I do for a living, and so to try and be creative in the writing way on command, I find that very challenging. So I think maybe if I take some time and get some structure to it, and then I can kind of dive into where I feel like I'm, sensing some movement that day,
yeah.
might be a good way to dive into that.
Do you like ever think like in terms of moments in the story? Like, I'm just thinking maybe for you, what might work well is something strikes a memory of, the conversation you had with the elders where they sided with your ex-husband.
Mm, yeah,
What if you started writing that story and see what emerges from it?
yeah, because
Um,
that actually happened when I was writing the I've written most of a first chapter because
okay.
it was for me the point where I had to make the choice between life and death, and so that's pretty powerful. And so I thought that was a really interesting way to let people know right off the bat, like this is serious stuff, and I know where you're at
hmm
because I've been there and I've had to make that choice.
Yeah, I mean that's a great interesting line. I was sitting with the board of leaders at my church who I wanted to trust. It was a life and death moment, and it seemed like they were choosing death for me.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yes, I mean that's intriguing. That's an intriguing premise right there. So I wonder if that might be work well for you, is just sit down and maybe come up with 10, 12 stories
Okay.
that really, and obviously they're going to be stories that stung for you, right? Not
Right.
exactly things you want to ponder on, but that's where the power is going to come.
Yeah.
They
No, that's okay.
overcame
I've
by
done
the
enough
blood of the
healing and
lamb.
have enough distance that I'm able to do that now.
That it does seem like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got that, right? So I think that might be a great way to lead it, is to start with those stories and then see what flows out of that, because every chapter should start with a story.
Okay.
So if you started with that and you probably come up with 25 stories, and you want to narrow some of them down. And
Yeah.
some of them you're like, oh, actually this one and this one go together. So I can take this and put it at the end of this other chapter. So I got a great story at the start, great story at the end. The way I structure books, I don't know if somebody told me this or if I came up with it in my head. It's hard to know sometimes when you've
Yeah.
read a bunch. I look at a book as a body, right? It's a corpus, a body. And really what it is the content is your skeleton. Okay, so you're building out the skeleton. The muscle is the truths that are going to
Hmm.
carry the reader forward, and the fat, the thing that makes it chewy and able to, tasty, is the it sounds weird. It sounds like we're talking about cannibalism, but you know what I mean.
I
Is
know
the
what you.
stories,
Yeah.
right? So that's what makes a good, healthy body is you've got the structure, the
Okay.
skeleton, you've got the muscle, and then you've also got the fat in there of the stories that really just make it. People are like, oh, this really makes me understand it better. Yeah, I can process it better. So I think that might be a great angle for you to come at it from
Yeah.
the little snippets of the story, and maybe they're chronological, maybe they're not.
Right.
Maybe they don't need to be. I don't know. Just it kind of depends. My book Connecting the Dots very chronological,
Hmm.
um, but other Keep It Light not chronological, but this got all the concepts. So you
Right.
could do those stories, and are you familiar, just on a practical level? Are you familiar with the writing app Scrivener?
No.
Okay, this is going to be the best $45 you'll ever invest in your writing career.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, so I wish I had stock in them. I don't even know if they're publicly traded, but it's called Scrivener, and it's Literature and Latte is who makes it. So the weird thing is you buy it, and then you get this receipt from Literature and Latte, and you're like, wait, what is
You're
this?
like, have I been to the coffee shop? What?
Yeah, it's like, what is this? So what's powerful about Scrivener, when you get into documents that are in the 20, 30, 40, 50,000 words,
Yeah.
multiple chapters, it gets super cumbersome in Microsoft Word because you're like scrolling through and trying to find the place. Scrivener, it creates this shell where basically at any point you can click to any part of the book anywhere. So you create this shell and you've got like the chapters over here and
Yeah.
then you've got subheadings. So when you wake up at 3 in the morning and remember, oh, I need to tell that story in there, you can literally flip open your computer or run to your computer, jump right to that spot. That's the way I write books. I mean, if I could show you, I've got multiple books half written where it's like a thought will come to my mind and I'll jump right to it and I'll be like, hey, address this and how Jesus talked about this, da da da. And then if I'm not up for writing that night at 2 in the morning, I just close the laptop. But the thought is placed in that location. So
Yeah.
you're building out this shell. And then once you're ready to convert it, all industry standard editing is still done in Microsoft Word, which is so bizarre.
It is. It is.
You'd think they'd have come up with something better, but it's Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
You can convert it to a Word document like that.
Oh,
So
that's
once you're in Scrivener,
fantastic.
yeah, I mean, you can write movie scripts on the thing. I mean, it'll do everything for you. But Scrivener is absolutely brilliant for that because it helps you take this huge piece, opus, corpus, whatever the word we want to use is, of work, and you're at any point you can access any part of it without having to scroll. And so, yeah, I've written 7 books, completed 7 books on Scrivener, and I've got like 3 more that I'm working on right now on Scrivener.
That
So
is
it's
huge. Thank you for
yeah,
that because that's when you've got an idea, the last thing you want to do is sit there and scroll for pages and search for the word and try and remember where you put it. And then
yeah,
you've lost the momentum that you had and you were like, oh, what was that?
yeah, and so you're gonna have a learning curve on Scrivener. It's a little
Yeah.
weird at first, but as soon as you get it, you're like, oh, this makes so much sense. So yeah, I think that'll be brilliant for you. In terms of the actual writing, um, just count on it probably taking you a year.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe more, right?
Yeah.
But a good book, I really feel, takes about a year to write.
Mhm.
And um, if you haven't necessarily been writing before, half of it's going to be honing your craft. But what I would tell you is this: just write, don't edit.
Okay.
Okay. Don't edit. Don't worry about grammar. People always joke, they're like, I can't write. I don't know grammar. I'm like, I don't either. They pay people to fix that for me. So,
Well,
um,
and that is another obstacle. I am notorious for writing and editing myself at the same time. And
yeah, that'll
so,
kill you.
okay, I
Yeah,
can get over
writing
this. I
and
can get over
editing at
this.
the same time will kill your momentum.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
just write and you don't critique, and you'll have literally sections that you never. My last book, Hiking the Clouds, was 80,000 word book when it started. When it was done, it was 18.
Right. Yeah.
So you have to,
Okay.
but I just wrote, right? And so I
Hmm.
got it out all in my head, and I'm grateful that I did. And now I got loads of extra content. But I got it all out. But if I would have been self-editing in the process, it would have never gotten written.
Okay. That's a good word. I need to, yeah. Because my writing experience has been in school. And so
Oh
I've
man,
been,
yeah.
you know what I mean? I was my own editor. And so I was writing and editing at the same time. And so, yeah, I need to overcome that. That's a good word though. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
don't you dare edit.
Okay.
Just write.
That's gonna be my little mantra. Is that don't edit, just write.
Yeah, don't you dare edit until it's all out there. And then
Okay.
once it's all out there, then you go and edit it.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Do you ever get writer's block, and how do you overcome that?
No, I have not had writer's block for years.
Okay.
Um, now there's lack of motivation block. I get that all the
Maybe that's a
time.
better phrase.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't feel like writing about this, right? But my mind is so conditioned at this point, and I think this is what happens when you become a writer. I think comedians are the same way.
Hmm.
You're so conditioned to be thinking in terms of how would I present this, that literally anything that happens, I'm like, I got to write about this.
Yeah.
And I will. Probably if I have a particularly perplexing experience in life, I'll sit down and write about it. And some of it never sees the light of day because when I read it back, I'm like, gosh, I'm just like complaining and moaning this whole article.
Right.
But but if there's something particularly redemptive about it, I may not use that piece, but I may go, oh, that leads to a thought over here that actually applies really well to this chapter. So I think once you get yourself into the mode, and I think the way to get into that mode, this is my, this is the first time I'm saying this, but I think this is right. We'll see. Is when you stay audience centric, meaning always focused on what you're going to bring to the audience, anything that happens to you, you're always going, what's the best way to present to people how this happened?
Yeah.
What's a way that's going to catch their attention? What's the way that's going to resonate with them? Um, I don't think you're going to hit writer's block once you start getting into the how would I present this to an audience?
Okay.
And that's again what I think comedians do so well is they just talk about everyday stuff we're familiar with, but they think a little deeper about it.
And I think that too, that's a really good word because what I tend what tends to happen when I'm staring at the blank page is all of a sudden I get self-conscious at the level of vulnerability that's about to happen, and then it's like, oh, okay, so do I really want to talk about that? And so then I think I'm editing myself before it even comes out.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think of it as counseling.
Yeah.
In counseling, we're never supposed to, as what they trained us in counseling, is you're never supposed to give a visible response. You're supposed to be a blank slate where people can project their thoughts onto you because many times they're sharing those thoughts for the first time.
Mm,
And if they feel in any way judged or rejected, they're not going to continue doing it.
that's
So
true.
don't let that blank page judge you.
Okay. Thanks. That's good. I like that.
Yeah. Talked about wanting to get into the speaking area.
Hmm.
Do you have a way to do that right now?
Not not really. Not really.
Okay. Are you involved in a church?
Yes.
Okay. So here's a pro tip as well. Before I launch any book, I gather together 6 to 8 people that I really trust, and I share the material in person with them as I'm writing
Mm,
it. And this will do 2 things for you. One is if you gather the group and don't have the book written yet, you better start writing.
that's
So you better get a chapter ready for next week. I've built many a thing where we got the boat on the water and then I started building the ship as we were sailing. So
you're like,
uh,
quick, give me some more nails.
yeah, yeah. So I'm wondering if maybe at your church you could
Hmm.
gather together and you just make it broad and say, hey, if you've ever had anybody in your family struggle with mental health, maybe you struggle with mental health issues, um, I'm preparing some content and I would love to hear your thoughts on the content. You
Hmm.
get those 6 to 8 people together, maybe even 10. I don't know. You might have 50 show up. Who knows? But you don't want too many because then you lose the personal interaction.
Okay.
But there's something powerful that happens when we see how our content is received before we send
Mm,
it out. It's almost testing the waters because
like comedians testing their sets before
you
they
got it. Back to the
record the
comedians.
live show.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's back to that idea of we've got to kind of test the content first and make sure
Yeah.
it's what we want it to be. Yeah.
Sure, that's great. Yeah, because I hadn't thought about it being used in small groups necessarily.
Hmm.
Um, Even though I think initially the concept would have been more memoir style, but then I don't think that that goes far enough because of my relationship with the Lord. Like I can't just put the story out there and let people draw their own conclusions in that way. Like
Yeah.
because that's not my journey. That's not the way the story has been written on my side. So I think focusing on that application side of it is going to be huge.
Yeah. I mean, it's that verse in Revelation. It says they overcame by the blood of the Lamb.
Yeah,
That's God's redemption and the word of their testimony.
that's right.
So it's not only what God did for me, let me tell you about what God did for me. And that's
Yeah,
where the power comes from. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions, thoughts?
No, I mean, this is huge. Thank you so much for your time, Joelle. I really am excited now. I feel like I have some more tips and some tools that I can really put into use to get me
Yeah.
started.
And again, don't overthink it.
Okay.
Just start writing.
This really is this has been a blessing to me today. Thank you so much.